Craft brews and casual conversations. My name is Drew, and joined with me is Robert. And today we dissect something that everyone's been waiting to dissect. People have been sitting at the ends of their edges of their seats in order to hear our take on a movie that some people probably didn't hear about until this very moment. So, without further ado, here's Brews and Reviews.
You're about to hear the greatest show of your life.
Dude.
Dudes with brews on a porch with Rob and Drew.
All right, cue it.
Don't really have a theme song for it. I just thought of that right now. That name.
Oh, I was legitimately, I was excitedly waiting for some new thing.
I haven't been able to do it. Maybe eventually.
Maybe something in the John Williams motif.
Yeah. Something like that. I'll do my best. Rob is,
You're gonna go back. We're gonna do post-production.
maybe not this time. I'm a tired guy, but eventually in the future, if we do this again, we'll there will be a theme. Damn it.
All right.
But anyways,
Yeah.
Rob, I'm not drinking. I think I'm gonna take the month off.
That's good.
I drank again this over the weekend, and I woke up and I was like, I didn't have a hangover. I wasn't sick, but I was like, I gotta stop with like the weekend stuff of having like a fair amount on the weekend. Not like where I'm like belligerent, not like where it's like really bad or anything, but I just need a break.
No, that makes sense.
Cleanse my
I've been
soul
thinking of
a little bit.
taking a break, but even on my break, I will break the break to drink on the podcast.
Well, see, that's why you're a better person than I.
I'm not trying to shame you with that. I'm just saying that I've already I can't even get to the point where I make where I make it a week.
Yeah.
I have a problem. I don't drink a lot, but I do enjoy to go down after work and have a half pint, you know?
Yeah, I hear you. And that's kind of where I'm at too. Yesterday I was like did that Packer show thing. And I was just like, man, I could drink a beer right now. I was like, nah, I just need to, get some things lined up again in life and in my health or whatever. So we're good. Just taking a breather. I'll probably have something on Thanksgiving. So a couple weeks yet. Just cleanse my soul a little bit. So that's what you're going to get. Maybe on next week's episode, I'll drink a fine tea. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll find there's other brewed things.
Yeah, absolutely. But what are you drinking?
I am drinking from Prairie Artisan Ales, the stout. This is stout. Yeah. Imperial Stout, aged on coffee, cocoa nibs, cocoa,
Cocoa? Yeah.
cocoa nibs, vanilla beans, and chili peppers. This is called Bomb.
Awesome.
I picked this beer very specifically for this podcast.
It's 13% ABV, which is
It's 13% ABV. It comes from Artisan Ales, which let's see if I can find this. I believe it's Krebs Brewing. It's an offshoot of Krebs Brewing, which is one of these brewers go back in the state of Oklahoma to before it was even a state. They started brewing beer in a bathtub in an Italian restaurant that still stands today. And it's the fourth generation, the great grandson, I believe, or great grandson of Pete, is involved in this brewery as far as I see on the website.
Nice.
Um,
Now,
so that's the brewery, definitely worth looking into.
it
But
says it says the peppers add just the right amount of heat to complement the intense coffee and chocolate flavors. That's the thing that they do with beer sometimes is they add like some sort of pepper to it. I've had like a jalapeno strawberry one before, and it's like me personally, it doesn't. I feel like something that drinking something that packs heat is kind of counterproductive, in my
well, I'm
opinion.
I'm gonna say this. This is one of the reasons I chose this beer.
Okay.
One of three reasons. I think we've already talked enough about this movie for people to know my stance on it, right? I brought up the
A little
stance.
bit briefly.
Yeah, so I picked this beer because much like this movie, I don't think I'm gonna like it. It's called Bomb. That is what this movie is.
Yep.
And it had coffee in it, which just plays on the fact that I fell asleep halfway through the second watching, um, for just a little bit. And you know what? I was more confused before I fell asleep than I was after.
Yeah. So we
So
watched.
let's take
Yeah.
a sniff and a drink of this
Try it. Yeah. Yeah.
dark stout, which is not my normal go-to.
All right.
God, it smells alcoholic. It smells like there might be alcohol in here.
13%. It's quite a bit. That's no joke. That's not your average lager for sure.
It's actually pretty good.
All right. I
It's
wish.
actually really pretty good. It's got a good body to it. You can taste the vanilla up front, the cocoa on the back a little bit. I don't taste the what was it? Chili? The chili?
Mm-hmm.
I think the chili might just be there to round it out. But it's got a good stout. Like do stouts do that to you on the top of your mouth, where they kind of make
A
the
little
roof of
bit.
your mouth
Yeah.
a little bit fizzy,
Yeah. A little
little
bit for sure.
little pop rocks feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Absolutely.
got that. It's got that.
Awesome. Well, better than expected.
Better than expected. I was told that by my bartender that it's a bad idea for me to drink this beer.
Well, you're
But
wrong.
that's because it's 13% and I'm a lightweight.
Well, what you weren't wrong about is your first watch of the movie from 2023, Pet Semetary Bloodlines, the new horror fantasy movie that has been released. You can get it on Paramount Plus. You can get it, of course, on YouTube. If you rent it, you can get it. I guess you can get it on Amazon Prime. I didn't check that. I had my brother-in-law illegally download it for me, and I watched it. In a
They
nutshell,
tell you all the yeah, they tell you all the places you can get it, but they forget to ask you why you would want to.
exactly. So, in this is the synopsis in a nutshell of the movie. Okay, in 1969, a young Judd Crandall, dreams of leaving his hometown of Ludlow, Maine behind, but soon discovers sinister secrets buried within. Judd is forced to confront a dark family history that will forever keep him connected to Ludlow. Now,
And now, people familiar with the original Pet Cemetery would know that Judd Crandall,
mm-hmm.
he's the guy. He's the that road there. I don't want to go down that road. That's Judd Crandall.
Oh, that is?
Yeah, this is there is a story because I was so confused by this movie upon on the second watching. I went and started watching Pet Cemetery 1 to find out.
Okay.
I wanted to really get to the bottom of this movie, and figure out why they made it. And Judd Crandall in Pet Cemetery, the original, tells the story after bringing the cat back to life,
Mm-hmm.
after showing Lewis, the dad of the main family, where the actual cemetery is, which is not the pet cemetery. You have to go through the pet cemetery to and cross this threshold into an old and climb like a mountain.
Hmm.
The way that they made it seem, which is a ridiculous conceit that this old man is like, come on down, come on down. I lost the ability to do whatever that guy's name is. Not that I ever had it, but uh, like, oh, it's just a little further. We just got to climb over all this stuff, and like the Lewis does a full, like a branch breaks, and he does a full front flip down a like fully like 20-foot wall of trees that have been piled up to
Hmm.
stop people from going down this path. And he's just like, oh, I guess I should have looked down. And then he gets up and there's like, oh, it's just a little further now, and they're going, and it's like they're walking, and there's like a ravine, and then they got to climb up these big rocks, and all of a sudden they're in a whole different landscape, and
Okay.
that's where the actual cemetery is that will bring back the dead, which is the conceit of Pet Sematary. Um,
If you watch
so
Bloodlines, so Bloodlines, this is before. I haven't watched Pet Cemetery in a long time. I couldn't tell you what happens in it.
that's why I'm
Um,
kind of giving a little bit of a rundown.
but
Um,
theoretically, this movie is made where you shouldn't have to see it. This would be technically the first one.
well, technically, yeah, you shouldn't have to see it because it's terrible and it doesn't actually follow what Pet Cemetery like if you watch this movie and then watch Pet Cemetery, you're just going to be left with questions. Um, when it comes to the actual story, because first off, they talk about it as if the timeline is it needs to be after World War II. So let's get into Pet Cemetery's opening, which is David Duchovny burying his son.
Mm-hmm.
We don't necessarily know that's what's happening. Duchovny sells it. He
Yeah.
brings home the bacon as he always does, but sometimes bacon can't say, you can't wrap a turd in bacon and call it lunch. You're not going to like it.
Right.
Bacon doesn't work for everything. But Duchovny brings the bacon. We know that.
Mm-hmm.
So he's burying something. We know it's called Pet Cemetery, so it's very easy to connect a few dots. Um, and then we get a terrible like they overuse the semi transition. Am I wrong about that?
There was like just random. I have like the note of like there's some hard transitions in this movie, and I don't know. Like it's so confusing. It's so hard to follow. Um, a confusing start nonetheless, because yes, David Duchovny's dragging his dead son into the burial grounds, but you wouldn't know that just by watching it. He's burying a body. You have no idea. You have no idea it's Timmy, who turns out to be the guy. Timmy is the vet that went to the war, that got buried by his dad, and then comes back and creates havoc after
Well,
his dog.
and I will say this, like at some point they made a decision. I don't even know how to unpack this movie because first off, the opening stuff is so bad. It's just garbage, in my opinion. Like the setup for everything is too long. There's a flashback to like 1694, right? At some point.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and then like one of the things in there, one of the lines of dialogue from I think during that time was, "Why are you sexy?" or something like.
There's some. I wrote down. There's um. We can do this the hard way or the harder way. That's a line from the movie. Uh, I would have swore it was Billy Crudup, but it's not. It's actually the child from Poltergeist or something.
Yeah, it was.
Uh,
Well, I mean,
but
like,
anyway, I didn't start taking any good notes until my first note was DB Productions because I made a note of that so I could go back and look up what else these guys have done. I didn't
mhm.
do that.
Oh,
My next note. This shows how like boring the first part of the movie is and when I fell asleep. But my next note is wait out the fire in the cellar. That is a suggestion at the climax of the movie where let's wait out the fire in the cellar,
mm-hmm.
which I thought was such a like we'll get to that later, but um so yeah, the Judd. is gonna go join the Peace Corps. He's
Mm-hmm.
trying to get out of town. The bird hits the window. The dog is in the street.
Right.
Uh, and that like that takes us to this really weird scene where they go to Timmy's house.
Yeah. Because they're bringing the
And
dog back.
they're
It's
they're
his
bringing the
dog.
dog back, and it's like they're trying to create this tension the whole time, and then out of nowhere, they like their big jump scare is the dog bites the girl Norma in the arm,
Mm-hmm.
and whoever decided to do the special effects on this, or the sound effects, I should say, just stop, stop what you're doing. You need to like there's a different genre for you or something because it was like the sound of the blood, him like trying to wrap her arm, and it's like he's
Mm-hmm.
wrapping her arm with a cotton shirt, and it sounds like he's playing with what was that green slime back in like remember that
Oh,
stuff that came in the ooze or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Like it's not it's meant to make you feel visceral, I'm sure, but it didn't. It just made me go, that's not the right sound effect. It's terrible.
Right.
Like there's so many levels to how bad this movie was, and we're not even into the actual story. The story breaks apart at the end in a way that I can't even describe how messed up the end of this movie is
Comes
in
back
terms
from
of story
Vietnam, by the
structure.
way. Timmy's back from Vietnam, which isn't
No,
clear.
he's back from Vietnam, but the what Judd says in Pet Sematary, the original, is uh, back in the day when he's telling the story.
Mm-hmm.
There was somebody whose son came back from World War II in a box, and
Mm.
they buried him up there, up
Mm-hmm.
that road there. You know,
Yeah.
like so they switched that around. They did some, they you know there were some things that they messed about. I think he also mentions the dog. But he's saying when I was a kid, I buried my dog up there. Dog didn't come back the same. And
Mm-hmm.
then and then this is the original Pet Cemetery. And then Lewis asks him, has anybody ever buried a body up there? And Judd, the old Judd, goes, no, no. Who would even think of it? Who would think of doing such a thing?
Mm-hmm.
And is outraged by it. And then later in the movie, he reveals, oh no, somebody did. They buried a boy named Timmy up there who came back dead from World War
Oh,
II.
okay.
Father got it in his head, da da da, which leads to, like it's just foreshadowing in a good way because Pet Sematary 1, not a great movie, not a bad movie, not a terrible movie, not like this where it's like I don't know what they're trying to accomplish with a lot of the things that they do. I mean, there's a scene where what's his buddy's name? The
Manny.
Indian, the native I
Manny.
don't know what you call it.
Manny.
Manny, where Manny sees the blood on the sunflower
Mm-hmm.
and then trips and falls face first into the dirt, stabbing himself in the hand with a thorn of sorts, a thorn the size of a steak knife that goes right through his hand. And like the scene, I'm just like, you could have easily had this guy put his hand out and still get the thorn through it. Why you had to make him go face down in the dirt? It was such a ridiculous compilation of and the only reason they did that, I wrote this down, like the only reason they did that is so that Manny would meet up with Judd at the hospital because he has now taken Norma to the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like you can see the writing process and going like, how do we get Manny into this story? Oh, we'll have him fall on a rock and stab himself in the hand looking at a bloody sunflower that never comes back in the movie. There's no reason for it. It's building tension for no reason. It's stakes without stakes. It's which when we get to the end of the movie, the stakes that they are trying to create at the end of this movie to create some kind of feeling for the audience that are not stakes at all for the characters that are involved. It's insane. It's like the breakdown at the end of this movie. It's
Well,
worse than
so
it with the spider. So you go on with your notes because my notes don't start until the end of the movie when I woke up from my nap. So I'm going on memory right now from I've seen this movie twice and the first half of the movie does not stick well.
essentially, this is just the details of the origins of Pet Semetary to a degree. Um, Eventually, at one point in time, Judd and Manny get to a local church where a drunken priest just rises from the pews, just out of nowhere, like, praise Jesus. Do you remember that?
I don't even remember
Oh,
that. Now I gotta watch it a
he
third
like he
time
like
just for that
he
scene.
just like comes out of nowhere, like he just like raises up from the pews or whatever. And I'm like,
I
what the
know
fuck
I
is?
remember because I watched this with Jack the first time, and we were like, legitimately, we weren't even like, this wasn't bad enough to joke around about,
Yeah, it's
like a
horrible.
mystery science theater 3000 movie. This was like literally looking at each other in disbelief, going, what is happening on the screen right now, and how this is
Well,
one of those how did this get made movies.
so the priest helps them unearth the diaries from 1674, which like dives into like the origins, the why are you sexy thing, and it's just so random. Essentially, this is the point they were trying to get across. You have to look on the internet to try to understand what's
All right, well,
happening.
before you tell me what the internet says, because there's one big thing that runs throughout this movie, and that is the symbology of the spiral or the Fibonacci sequence, which is the idea of repetition, always things repeating over and over and over again.
Hmm.
Is that anything that they talk? Because that's even the sunflower before the terrible fall scene of Manny, he's looking at the internal seed pattern of a sunflower with blood dripping off of it, which is the Fibonacci sequence, and then the graveyard is in a spiral, and they keep on doing like there's spiral imagery throughout this
Hmm.
movie, and I assume that that has to do with the repetitious cycle that they're caught into. The further you pull back, the same it is. Doesn't matter how much time or how close in you zoom out, zoom in or zoom out. Uh, they did poorly. They did that poorly, but
Yeah,
that
that pretty much they just said, yeah, the settlers discovered the natives had largely left the area due to crop rot, and learned from a local chief why the pet cemetery was built. So they thought that the tribe thought animal spirits would protect them from evil in the woods. Um, the prequel doesn't mention the name, the Wendigo, right?
Wendigo.
Wendigo.
A
Um,
Wendigo is a person who eats human flesh and comes back as a creature that craves human flesh.
yeah. So they but this is why like they wear the animal masks in that time.
Oh, yeah. So this is what Manny's sister was making the art for,
Hmm. But
which is very subtle as well.
so it talks about that a little bit, but then I until I saw this, I guess I didn't catch on to what was happening. I did watch this with some friends, but Timmy's coming back from the dead, right? Um,
Hmm.
and after being killed in a war, um, he comes back because
Timmy's the good guy.
Timmy's
Timmy's trying to break the cycle.
Timmy's the bad guy. He was.
Well, I
Uh,
have it in my notes that it becomes very unclear. It depends on what you want to root for.
mm,
Like I thought they were trying to paint him as a potential good guy and as the founding members of this town as the bad guys or whatever. Which I could understand that, but they start these threads and they don't follow through on them.
oh, maybe I don't know.
Anyway,
But so he's
sorry,
possessed. He's possessed,
I'm gonna
right?
keep cutting you. Yeah, I'm gonna
Uh,
keep cutting you off because I didn't look this up on the internet, so I want to know how right I am based on internet standards.
he's possessed, by the Wendigo spirit because that's what happens, right? In this case, this lets Timmy read the minds of the locals and use their darkest secrets against them. Did you get that?
Okay. No, that's nowhere near. That's not even. Wow. I didn't think that this movie could be even more poorly executed until just now when I'm finding out what they were trying to execute. There's he doesn't eat flesh, first off.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, they write on the ground in blood. What's her name? Manny's sister is again.
Is it normal?
No, Norma is the girlfriend of Judd.
some other some other.
Either way, at one point there's in blood at the hospital, it's written on the ground, eat. Some people they decide to kill, some people they decide to take. Some people Manny's sister gets turned into apparently a Wendigo or Wendigo. Didn't realize that that's what it was supposed to be myself. Um, but then Norma gets taken and she's still alive. This is where we get into a real breakdown in terms of like what the f is happening. Like how I censored myself. Uh, what is happening in this movie? It makes absolutely no sense. And when you say like, oh, they can read the fears of the locals. What locals? Where is everybody? Did
Yeah,
you have that thought at
yeah.
any point where it's like, where is everybody in this town? There's 5 people.
Right. Yeah.
I'm so
Even when
sorry
they're
I'm
like,
yelling. I hope I'm far enough away from the mic that this
oh,
is
you're
not
good.
messing up the sound audios, but it's like I was like watching it the second time. Even the first time, it's just like they're in the hospital. The Wendy or what? Let's call her Wendy. Just because she's a Wendigo now, and it's Manny's sister. She kills one nurse, and Norma is running like crazy through a hospital. One nurse has died, and there is not a soul to be found anywhere.
Yeah, that's
This
true.
whole
They
town, like
couldn't
it's
find
like
any
there's
extras. They couldn't find any extras in the to
yeah,
make the
like
movie.
nobody like the company was in Billy Crudup lookalike was in but nobody else was like they were like I don't know, this is maybe a career killer.
Do you think it's
Uh
because Duchovny took up majority of
I
their
think he took, yeah,
budget?
I think they had Duchovny for one day of
Yeah,
shooting. I think that was 90% of their budget potentially. But at the same time, it's like, they set this in a, like, they had to get old cars. They had to get, um, it's like they had to do set dressing and all that stuff. So, I mean, I think Duchovny probably took up a lot of their acting budget. And the acting there, it's like there were some people that were acting well. There were some scenes that were the guy that I thought was Billy Crudup, the dad, Judd's dad. I thought he made some interesting choices as to how he acted.
I thought that was Corey Feldman at first.
So yeah, this guy's but so if you've stuck with us this far, because I'm sure, like you may think we're not describing this movie well.
There's
We're
no way
describing
to
it
just.
so well right now. There's just no way to actually get and I like th th ha there's no way to tell how this movie goes because it's like, oh, kid's about to leave town with his girlfriend for the Peace Corps. David Duchovny's oh, but first a bird hits him in the window, then the dog bites Norma. They go into, they've already been in town actually, haven't they? Because David Duchovny shames Crandall for not going to Vietnam and going like, oh yeah, like your name never, Crandall's name never came up in the draft,
Mhm.
as if somehow his dad could pay off the federal government
Right.
from draft. Like I don't, that made no sense. So just so we can get up to speed to let's get to the climax where David Duchovny joins the team of locals that exist, which is
All six of them.
Judd Crandall's dad, the whole town basically.
Manny.
Um, Manny, and then is that it, or there's a sheriff or something too?
Yeah,
Because the
yeah,
dude gets pulled underneath in the horse stables.
yeah,
He was just there to die.
yeah.
Um,
And the drunk
so David
priest.
Duchovny, yeah. So basically, Norma gets kidnapped by Timmy. Timmy is the bad guy. That's this is the dead Vietnam soldier that was buried in the cemetery and came back to life.
But
David
that's not really
Duchovny's
that. But
son.
that's not really ever like expressed that well,
They don't really let you know that.
right?
They're really like the heavy lifting is, oh, you've seen Pet Semetary,
Which is a
and so
bad
you
premise for a
understand.
movie.
Yeah, it really is. They don't. They make you connect a lot of dots while they throw a lot of bullshit at you to stop you from connecting those dots.
Right.
Um, so just to like, I want to really condense the whole first part of this movie. We've got Judd, Judd's dad Duchovny, Timmy, which is Duchovny's son,
Timber.
Manny, and his sister Wendy. All right?
Mm-hmm.
And Norma. Norma is Judd's girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Norma has been kidnapped, they suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Wendy has been transformed into a Wendigo, whatever you want to call it, by Timmy. David Duchovny wants to save his son, so he's kind of trying to hide what's happened on his land. Like, he doesn't want people there to see that Timmy has been brought back.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Judd, Judd's dad, and Manny, they're trying to find Manny's sister and Norma. And they assume that like they know for whatever reason throughout the first hour of this movie, I don't know, that Timmy is responsible for the disappearances. So they finally talk to David Duchovny, and they go, "Hey, you messed up. We gotta go save the girls." They say, "We gotta save the girls."
Mm-hmm.
At this point, they think the girls are worth saving. That's what's interesting. This is where this movie really is interesting to me. So they go to Duchovny's house where Timmy is staying, assuming that that's where Timmy has brought the girls. Uh, they go into the house. David Duchovny says, "All right, we're gonna go in. We're gonna get the girls out. We're gonna go in. We're gonna get you guys get the girls out. I'm gonna hold Timmy in the house. You guys start it on fire. When get the girls out, start the house on fire." And Billy Crudup. I know it's not Billy Crudup, but that's what I'm gonna call him. That's Judd's dad. He goes, "Oh, David Duchovny, you can't." And Duchovny goes, "I saw him come into this world, or I held him when he came into this world. I'm gonna hold him when he goes out of this world." Basically saying, I'm gonna hold Timmy in the flames, and we're gonna burn to death together.
Yep.
I can't live without my son. It's a very powerful thing, and you could have used that to your advantage, but you didn't.
Yeah.
Sorry, DB Productions, you didn't. Also, whatever the director's name, something something beer. That's all I remember. That's like, um, so we're at a point. They go into the house. They've got rifles with scopes on them. This sounds so ridiculous when you break this all down. They've got rifles with scopes on them. Uh, they get in the house. Billy Crudup tells Judd, like, if you're coming in, you stay by my side. You stay by my side. They get into the house, and instantly, within like a minute, Billy Crudup's like, "I'm gonna go check upstairs. You guys don't move. You stay right here." All right. So now you've got Judd Crandall and Manny in the kitchen or the living room downstairs. This is where Manny's sister appears. She is possessed. Timmy has dragged her across the threshold into this Wendigo mentality. She starts slashing at Manny. She's cutting him in the shin and in the ankle with the smallest knife you've ever seen. Like, she pulls out a Boy Scout pocket knife, and they're like, "Oh boy, they've got rifles." And this is madness. And Judd is aiming at her, and Manny's going, "Don't shoot her! Don't shoot her!" Now this is where Billy Crudup comes back through the door. This is the guy who said, "We got to get in here and save the girls." He walks in and without hesitation shoots her in the chest. He doesn't stop to go like, maybe she's possessed. What's going on in here? He walks through the door and shoots her in the chest.
Boom.
All right. He starts tending to Manny's ankle, which has been carved up by a pocket knife. And she must get up off camera, and she shoves a rifle through Billy Crudup's gut.
Through his body. Right.
Yeah, through his body. Manny mans up and shoots his own sister in the eye, which they establish at some point that you have to shoot him in the eye. That matters somehow.
Mm-hmm.
They're talking about birds. At one point, they go, "I'll take the birds, shoot for the eyes." They never show that scene. The CGI didn't work out. The budget didn't come through for the CGI birds. But there was like they make a point to say something about birds. So at this point, you've got Billy Crudup's character is dying on the floor. Wendy's character, she's done.
Do you think
we don't know anything?
You think like all this happened like the editing was like during like the strike, and they're just like,
I have no idea, and I'm so sorry. Like, we should be. I can't. We can't talk about the ridiculous nature of what's about to happen without actually setting up what actually happens. And
mm.
I promise you, if you're listening still, that this podcast is better than this movie. You're gonna like this is gonna be so much. It's so much better than if you sat and watched this movie. Uh, so Wendy's down, Billy Crudup's down. Then they cut to Timmy, who decides to light the house on fire. That was the plan of David Duchovny, was to light the house on fire while Timmy's in the house. Timmy decides to light the house on fire while David Duchovny and friends are in the house.
Mm-hmm.
David Duchovny walks in like a badass, as he always does, flips a table, and he goes, "Let's hide from the fire in the cellar. We'll wait out the fire in the cellar." Words that have never been spoken, and people live to tell the tale.
Go to the
So
cellar.
so he flips over a table. They go down into the cellar, um, and this is where so there happens to be a tunnel system, that's tunneled out from underneath David Duchovny's house.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and they decide, well, that's our only means of egress. Now they start showing Norma. Now they start cutting to Norma. This is the girl that they thought that they were there to save. They thought they were there to save Wendy and Norma. They know Wendy is now gone. She has been converted into the undead or whatever Timmy is. But they never wake up to like they whether they do or don't is never expressed. Maybe Norma's gone too. If Wendy became one of these things, why wouldn't Norma be one of these things if Timmy took both of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They never asked that question. They're just fleeing for their lives through the only means of egress, which is these tunnels. Uh, and while they're down in the tunnels, they start cutting to Norma, who is also in the tunnels, and she's tied up and she's trying to scream, and she's sinking into this mud, uh,
Yeah.
uh, right?
Right.
This is so they're like they I don't even know why she's alive at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like when it comes down to the entirety, like
Was
I
that?
put it together in my head that she wasn't one of the families that had anything to do with the founding of this town or the use of this cemetery in the past. Therefore, she wasn't on Timmy's list because Timmy's always talking about Crandall's are on the list, these people are on the list, Manny's on the list.
Mm-hmm.
So that was how I squared that in my head. Was she's not on the list, therefore she doesn't get killed.
Well, and she like
Either
gets
way,
chased the whole time. That whole chase in the hospital is so random too
yeah.
with her.
So she wakes up in a muddy puddle
Mm-hmm.
underground,
Yep.
and she's sinking into it. Um, and I did make this note. Timmy was a bad choice for a name for any character that you're going to be yelling
Ta-ra!
out after South Park. Yes, I wrote that down. I was like, that's all I could think about when they were yelling Timmy
That's what
in the
I
tunnel
though when we were
system.
watching it when they're going. That's what I did. I went Timma, Timma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
so
funny.
Norma's down in the tunnels. None of our characters know that. None
Mm-hmm.
of our characters are trying to find her down there at this point. They're all trying to get out of a house that's ablaze.
Yeah.
And none of them do find her in the tunnels. They come up into a forest where Manny steps on a booby trap because of course Timmy knows how to booby trap because he was in the Vietnam War. Then we get to see a little scene of where Judd has been ridiculed for not going to Vietnam the whole movie. He gets his own little Vietnam where he has to leave Manny on a tripwire with a flare gun, and then he has to wade through a river where Timmy is silently lurking below the water. And I was this is we're seeing Judd's Vietnam
Mm-hmm.
unfold. Uh, and while that's happening, Norma is struggling in this mud puddle and all these things, And then this is the ending of the movie, so here's the real spoilers if we haven't spoiled it enough. Uh, uh, Manny shoots a flare gun into the face of Timmy as
Mm-hmm.
Timmy's trying to drown Judd, but
Mm-hmm.
not before having a series of unnecessary flashbacks. Which will happen for the rest of the movie. All these flashbacks are going to start happening, which I didn't like. Mean they just cut to random
Right.
flashbacks. Like and it's like, why are there so many flashbacks? Uh, and then Norma, she just escapes on her own.
Yeah.
Nobody saved her. Didn't
Well,
even need to go looking for her
well,
as
and
far
then
as
David
as far as
Duchovny's.
this movie is
Did you
concerned.
talk about how David Duchovny died?
I did not. Let's go back to that.
Oh, he just his insides get ripped out in the tunnels.
In the tunnels.
Yep, they find
By
him.
who though?
This Timmy is, I'm assuming. I don't
They
think
never show it?
no, it's never really established. They're just like, ah,
Timmy
shit.
wouldn't kill his own dad, would he?
Yeah, dude, he got ripped up, man.
This podcast creates as many questions as the movie itself.
I was bummed. Like, I mean, first of all, when you tell
I
me
blocked that out. I literally I've seen the movie twice now, and I
he
blocked
gets
that
killed,
I blocked out Duchovny's death.
but it's very confusing on how he gets killed. You don't see it happen. It just is like,
There's
well, we gotta
nothing
stumble
is
upon him, you know.
and then they just end with a semi truck transition to black.
Yeah, it's super confusing. And yeah, and like it's just this is one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my life.
It's so bad. Like I'm sorry that like we just went through a half hour of Rob like Rob describes a movie. Like thank you so much for letting me get all of that off my chest, but like which was nothing off of my chest as much as me just trying to make sense of a terrible movie. But it's like the act of Norma, she's she's drowning in mud,
Right.
which is telling the audience she needs to be saved in a timely manner.
Mm-hmm.
But then she just saves herself. No
Yeah.
one even knows that she's down there. Like it's they're creating stakes for that are not stakes at all. If you think about it for more than a millisecond, you go, they don't even know she's down there. They don't know. They're not looking for anything in these tunnels. They're
Mm-hmm.
literally just trying to escape right now. Norma has become an afterthought. As far as Judd gave a shit, she was dead. Like he was done with it. And he never yelled out Norma once.
Yeah. I mean, and then essentially at the end, the motif of that never-ending circle is there again. He was Judd cursed to stay in Ludlow his entire life, because eventually he finds his spot on this porch. He does what he doesn't leave. He stays in that
He
ending
tells people about that road
that
there.
road
I
there,
want
and
to go
then
down that road.
what happens at the? He says warning, stay the fuck out of Ludlow, and then a semi truck comes by.
Yeah, it ends with a semi truck. Manny gets out
Yeah,
because we don't see Manny in Pet Sematary, the original.
yeah, he got out.
And that so and I honestly, as Manny was riding out of town in 1969,
But the semi
as
truck is a
as a
homage to the original.
it absolutely is. But there's like in the original they actually like kind of show where the semis come from. They say right away like the since this happened, since the oil place down the road, you don't want to be on that road. Like that's a dangerous road that kills a lot of pets, that road,
Mm-hmm.
but in this one it's just like it's the means to like a loud sound that's telling you there's a transition here. That's what they're using the semi for. Like they make this weird eerie ideal, like, or they try to create this eerie sensation for the audience that's then brutally interrupted by a semi truck flying by the screen with a loud noise. But in all actuality, it's just it's just bad, disconcerting. It doesn't make you feel anything except for like you don't want to be watching the movie.
Do you think there was like a really amazing version of this
Yes.
movie, and then it got killed and then kind of like buried, if you will, by the strike in some sort
Yeah.
of ancient cloud-based burial ground, and then finally when it came to resurrect, it was just this awful,
It was
horrible
this terrible
mess.
abomination. Yeah, that makes sense.
I
And
think,
David Duchovny did his part before the burial.
yeah. So I think,
Uh,
I mean, David's the hero, anyways, in this movie.
he is. He's a father who misses his son, who thinks that his son was taken from him undeservedly, while Crandall's fucking kid got to be bought out of the war. And, oh, he's gonna go and join the Peace Corps. Have fun with your fucking peace. You know that was his position.
Right.
Every time he saw Crandall, he got more angry at the situation. Um, and the difference, it's like I don't know what they were thinking when they made this movie because Pet Cemetery, like Pet Cemetery 1 was I didn't finish it yet. I will go back and because it's just been so long since I've watched the whole movie.
Mm,
I watched up until the point where the kid comes back. So
mm.
Lewis has buried his son, uh, and uh, that's and right at the point where I was like, I gotta go to sleep is when when Lewis's son is terrorizing Judd in his house, after coming being resurrected by the cemetery.
Hmm.
And I will say it's a captivating movie because it like you have Judd telling Lewis like, don't do this. I know what you're thinking, and Lewis is like, you don't know what I'm thinking. You're thinking about putting your son up in that cemetery because a father shouldn't lose a son.
Hmm.
And it's the most powerful story in the mythos of storytelling is the father-son relationship. You atone with the father. The father like there's a batting of heads that's like you follow in your father's footsteps for your entire life until you have to bash heads with him and take him on and atone with what he wants for you so you can be who you want to be. That's like it's a very powerful thing in storytelling. Uh, that this movie decided to go a different way with.
Yeah.
They really shied away from that by not focusing on David Duchovny's character, by focusing on this fucking muscular kid in a t-shirt with with a hot blonde girlfriend and a Trans Am, and we're gonna get out of this little town of Ludlow, and we're gonna go join the Peace Corps
You
because
could, yeah, you could have started it with Timmy in the war, him dying, getting shipped to Ludlow, and then his dad going through that process, burying him, and then it comes back and does all that other stuff. That would have been a
it
better
just
movie.
yeah, well, and then on top of it, it's like it doesn't even match up with the movie that it's supposed to be telling,
Right.
which is it should have been World War, but it wouldn't have worked out in the time frame
Mm-hmm.
of World War II. There wasn't like conscientious. What's the word I'm looking for? Dude,
Conscientious.
I'm almost done with this beer. I can't speak. Conscientious. Say it again.
Conscientious?
Conscientious objectors. There weren't really those to World War II. World War II people were signing up at
Right.
15 saying they were 18. Um, so that takes away the whole dynamic
Right.
between David Duchovny and Judd, where he's kind of going like, "Oh, have fun with your peace," while there's brave people that go and fight for
Mm-hmm.
freedom.
Mm-hmm.
I understand why they made it the Vietnam War in this, but if you're gonna go and make a backstory that is a big part of a franchise, not even I don't want to call it a franchise, a big part of a movie that is it's a staple
Mm-hmm.
in a genre. Don't change the war and not like it's like uh, to
Right.
me I just go like you either follow the story or you don't. You didn't follow the story and you had to change this thing. And when you change one little thing, then you got to change another thing, then another thing, then another thing.
It's a big
And all of a
spiral.
sudden your movie gets warped. Yeah, it turns into a spiral. and it spirals where? Down the toilet.
Down the toilet, under the cellar, waiting out the fire.
Waiting out the fire in the cellar. I can't, like, what the
Matt, let's find a way out of the house. Let's go underneath it.
the door was right there. Like you could see outside.
Well, none of the neighbors were concerned because none of them are home.
They're all either dead or never existed to begin with. Like the
Just a
this
family of
movie,
yeah. It's
maybe
it's a shitty movie. It's bad. It is one of the most.
it's just so
It really is, and like you said, you can't even crack jokes about it because it's like you're trying to figure out like what is even happening. So many times I ask myself, I was like, I don't know what's going on right now, and it's just it was rough. It's a rough watch. David Duchovny sometimes is in some pretty bad movies. The one where like
he has made some bad choices.
the one where like his wife dies and then her soul takes on the spirit of his daughter.
Oh, the crazy incest pedophile
Oh, it's
movie called The
weird.
Secret.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Horrible
I know that
movie.
movie well.
Uh,
I bought when I used to own it because I used to buy anything with David Duchovny in it, and I remember watching that and being like, "What in the good graces of fucking what God am I watching? Like this just makes incest okay? Is that what you're trying to do? Or does it is it trying to make pedophilia okay or statutory rape
yeah,
okay? I don't understand any of it.
it was a bad movie. But I think this one was probably worse.
Yeah, this definitely is at the bottom of every David Duchovny. Like this is he can't save it, you know.
No, he can't. I mean, you see him on screen for maybe 5 minutes. Maybe.
It's yeah, they had him for one day of
Yeah,
shooting.
they had to have. But
Uh
I
I'm
mean,
sorry I dominated our conversation about
no,
this.
it's good. It's good. You got to do that every once in a while. This is your
But I've
episode.
watched it twice. I watched it twice as much as you did.
I will never watch it
Although I
again.
felt
So,
like I totally I that pre-scene is lost to me. I just remember the first time I watched it when I didn't fall asleep, when the flashback happened to like the 1600s or whatever. Um, it was so abrupt and unwarranted, if I
yeah.
remember correctly.
Yeah.
Me and Jack just went like, what? Why did we just flash back 300 years?
That's every transition though. Like
Yeah, it's just like yeah.
it's bad. Um a lot of people and could have made a better movie. So that's what it is. A one to 5 stars. What would you give this flick?
1 to 5 stars.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put my star amount in the cellar.
To wait out the fire.
It's gonna wait out the fire. Yeah, you know what? Actually, uh, to quote one of my favorite, one of a couple of my favorite quotes. When I rate this movie, we can do this the hard way, or we can do this the harder way.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go the harder way and say 0.25 stars. Uh, uh,
All right. Well,
what do you rate this movie?
yeah, I don't know that it even deserves one. It got like I mean, Rotten Tomatoes seemed to be kind of generous in the rating. I think they gave it like a 20 something percent. Um yeah, it's bad, man. It's just it's horrible. How's your beer though?
The beer tasted great.
Yeah.
Uh, it's got me warm in my chest and tummy.
Nice.
Uh,
Feeling
the
fluffy.
vanilla and the coffee stay through the whole beer.
23% Rotten Tomatoes. 4.7 on IMDb. On IGN, it gave it a 6 out of 10. That's like a 60%.
Ooh,
That's like a
are
D.
are we idiots?
I don't know. I don't
I've
know.
watched it. Okay, so I watched this with Jack. And you've watched it now.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Jack the first like I told Jack I got to rewatch Pet Semetary Bloodlines, which even the title anything that says like puts bloodlines in the title I think is probably going to be bad from the beginning.
Right.
Sharknado Bloodlines. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it's
Just
uh,
not what.
uh but I go, what are you up to tonight? I gotta rewatch Pet Semetary Bloodlines. And he goes, anything else? Basically that's what he said. He said, I will not watch that movie again. And you were watching it and you were texting me as you watched it,
Yeah.
which you were like, each movie is like terrible.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. You guys vindicated my opinion of the movie, so
Well, leave it up to the listeners to watch it on if they would like. But
can we throw out there? I just want to throw out there. So, if our listeners are listening this far, if they care enough about you and I not cutting ourselves, they would be well advised to send in watch this movie, and then if you think you have a worse movie
yeah,
than
yeah,
this. If you think you have a harder movie to stand than this movie, that makes less sense, that whatever it is,
The
that
Room.
gives you a visceral reaction in your big toe, send it to us at
Dudes on a porch at
dudes
Gmail.
dudes on a porch at Gmail, dudes with brews on the Instagramming thing. We're on the threads, we're on the Facebook,
Yeah, yeah.
we're all over the
We're on the
place.
place. We're in the places. Let us know. I'm sure there is a worse movie, but it's gonna be hard to find because this was pretty awful. But not as awful. But your beer was good. So I guess
The beer was really good. It definitely got me drunk, um, which was not drunk is a harsh word. I'm feeling good.
yeah,
Uh, but no, the vanilla stays with you throughout the whole beer. The cocoa kind of kicks off after you get halfway through.
sure.
I wasn't tasting that so much. Chili peppers, they must just be there to balance something out because I really didn't get that much taste on that. And the coffee also that comes through more at the end. Weirdly enough, as you get used to the vanilla and the cocoa, the coffee starts to come through.
It's just an adventure of flavors during a great discussion about a shitty piece of cinema.
Hey, sometimes we gotta go down the bad roads to know what the good roads are. I mean, you don't know how good Zoolander is. Why would I pick that David Duchovny movie of all movies? You don't know how good X-Files is until you watch Pet Semetary Bloodlines.
Even I mean, Keeping Up with the Joneses or the Joneses was a pretty good movie with Duchovny in it.
I mean, if you want to go complete contrast here, You People. David Duchovny probably has about the exact same amount of screen time. It's
Mm-hmm.
probably less than You People, but let's say it's comparable. I think that's probably why my brain went for Zoolander because he's only in one scene. But he knocks that scene out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
And but You People, he's in that. He's a character that comes and goes, but every time he's on screen, he delivers. And that wasn't a bad movie. It's not a great movie either, but David Duchovny's performance was good in it.
Yeah,
In this one as well, I think his performance was good, but it was just man, he's looking old too. That saddened me.
he is. He's old. He's 63.
It's not that old.
No, it's not that old. Yeah, he's got to get money. It is what it is. But yeah. If anything, you can just watch Californication and Evolution.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Watch anything else with David Duchovny, but definitely drink the Prairie Artisan Ales bomb if you like stouts, especially coffee, cocoa, vanilla stouts. This one was a good one. It was
good.
good.
Well, that's it. There you have it. Bye.
Out.